Welcome to Shadow Stories. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button to get access to the most thrilling stories on YouTube. And drop a comment letting me know what city you're watching from. I love getting to know my subscribers. Now, let's dive into today's story.
Story 1. I met this guy named Kaio at a bar in Denver, Colorado on a Friday summer night. I was out with a few friends, and we started talking because of a Rockies game that was on TV. Everyone started to split off, and it ended up being just the two of us chatting. We exchanged Instagrams before leaving. The next day, I was at Sloan's Lake for my friend Rachel's birthday. I posted a story on Instagram, and about an hour later, someone tapped me on the shoulder. It was Kaio. He smiled and said that spot was one of his favorite Saturday hangouts. I introduced him to the group, but he stuck close to me the whole time. A few days later, he invited me to play paintball. I'm not good at it, but it sounded fun. No one else I invited wanted to go, so it was just the two of us. Weeks later, he asked if I wanted to go on a hiking trip to Flagstaff, Arizona. I had always wanted to visit. I checked with work and said yes. I asked if any of his friends were going, and he said no, it would just be us. I found that odd, since he seemed popular on social media, but I went with it. We left on a Thursday night and planned to return Sunday. He rented a cabin outside the city. When we got there, I realized it only had one bedroom. I asked him about it, and he said the couch was a pull-out and that I could stay there for free. I didn't complain. That first night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps. I saw Kaio walking from the kitchen to the bathroom like he was sleepwalking. I fell back asleep. The next day, we went hiking at Humphreys Peak. He was in much better shape than I was. While I was panting and drenched in sweat, he was laughing and telling me to keep up. The view was amazing, but I was starting to feel weird about being there with him. That night, we went to a small local bar. We had a few craft beers. I got really drunk. So did he, or at least he pretended to. When we got back to the cabin, around 2 a.m., I collapsed on the pull-out couch, plugged in my phone on the floor beside me, and knocked out. Sometime in the night, I woke up needing to pee. The cabin was quiet, but it felt like someone had just moved through the hallway. I used the bathroom, and on my way back, I saw his door slightly open. I didn't look in. Back on the couch, I noticed my phone wasn't where I left it. Instead, it was sitting on the side table, unplugged. Weird. But I figured maybe I had moved it while drunk and didn't remember. On the last night, Kaio insisted I sleep in the bed and he'd take the couch. Just to switch it up, he said. I gave in. I kept my clothes on and closed the door. It had one of those simple knob locks that you could open with a coin or a fork if you really wanted. I woke up again later that night, unsure why. You know that feeling, like something wakes you up, but your brain didn't fully register it. The room was dark, but I could make out a shape in the corner. It was Kaio, standing still, staring. I turned on the lamp and my blood froze. He was standing near the dresser, eyes wide open, holding a kitchen knife. "What the hell are you doing?" He didn't say a word. He just tilted his head slowly, like he was studying me. "Kaio, are you insane?" He took one step forward. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the lamp and threw it at him. knocking over a chair in the process. I grabbed my bag and ran out the door barefoot. I didn't just run into the street. I sprinted to a Circle K convenience store I remembered seeing when we first arrived. It was maybe 2 blocks away. I hid near the back and called an Uber with trembling hands. At the airport, I paid to get an earlier flight. I couldn't sleep. Not at the gate, not on the plane. My head was spinning with what-ifs. Before I blocked Kaio on Instagram and WhatsApp, I checked one of his old photos with friends in it. No one was tagged, but I clicked on one of the profiles that had liked the post. I messaged the guy. His reply came fast. "That guy's dangerous. I cut ties with him a while ago. So did a bunch of people. He's got a history of stalking and breaking into people's phones. Stay away." Ever since, I get a chill every time my phone shows a random location notification. I thought Kaio was just a nice guy trying to make a new friend. He almost became my killer. Story 2. He was waiting on the beach. This happened last summer in late July. I had just come back home to Delaware from college for a few weeks, just trying to enjoy the break before the next semester. My 2 best friends, David and Hugo, were around too, so we decided to do something together, just the 3 of us, like the old days. We planned a weekend trip to Rehoboth Beach. David's dad owns a small beach house there, and he gave us the okay to use it for a few days. It wasn't anything fancy, just 2 beds, a beat-up couch, and creaky wooden floors, but it was all we needed. Just time to relax, drink a bit, and hang out. We arrived on a Friday afternoon. The heat was brutal, that sticky East Coast kind of hot, and the ocean breeze hit us the second we stepped out of the car. We spent most of the day walking the boardwalk, goofing around, and watching people pass by like we used to. That night, we grilled some burgers in the backyard, had a few beers, and played some drinking games. It was around midnight when someone, maybe Hugo, suggested, "Why don't we go down to the beach for a bit?" It sounded like a great idea. The breeze had cooled things off. The streets were quiet, and the ocean was calling. We grabbed hoodies, our phones, and an old flashlight from the kitchen drawer. We weren't planning to swim, just walk and chill. We walked down the stairs from the boardwalk to the sand. The beach was completely deserted. The only light came from the street lamps behind us and the moon peeking through the clouds. The sound of the waves was steady, comforting. We strolled barefoot along the shoreline, letting the cold water hit our feet and just talking. Eventually, we stopped near one of those wooden lifeguard towers they take down at night and laid back on the sand, staring up at the sky. That's when David suddenly sat up and said, "Is someone walking over there?" We all sat up and looked where he was pointing. At first I saw nothing, just a dark blur near the shoreline. But then, yeah, there was a figure, a man, slowly walking along the line where the water met the sand, maybe 50 meters away. We figured it was just someone like us, out late, enjoying the beach, but something felt off. The way he walked didn't look right. His steps were short and stiff, almost mechanical. His arms didn't swing, his posture was strange, his head tilted slightly forward, as if he was scanning the ground. We stopped talking, just watched him. "Maybe he dropped something," Hugo whispered. "Or he's a drunk tourist," David said with a nervous laugh. We tried to go back to joking, but I couldn't stop glancing at the man. A few minutes passed, and I noticed he had stopped. He wasn't walking anymore. He was standing. "Nah, he's staring at the ground." David shook his head. "No, look. His head's tilted at you." That's when he pointed the flashlight at the figure. I told him not to, but he already flicked it on. The beam hit the man for just a second before the battery died, but that second was enough. His skin was pale, almost grey and wet. He wasn't wearing a shirt. He wore jeans that looked soaked and clung to his legs. His arms hung limp at his sides. But what froze me were his eyes, wide, bulging out of their sockets. His neck was tilted at an unnatural angle, not broken, just wrong. The second the light touched him, he charged at us. There was no hesitation, no slow build-up. He went from still to full sprint like someone hit a switch. We screamed, all three of us ran. Our feet sank into the sand, but adrenaline pushed us forward. I remember Hugo yelling, "Go," behind me. We didn't stop until we hit the stairs back to the boardwalk. When we finally turned around, the beach was empty. No footprints behind us, just waves. We walked back to the house in silence. When we got in, we locked all the doors and windows, pulled the curtains shut, and stayed up until dawn. None of us could sleep. I kept expecting to hear knocking or see that pale face staring through the window, but it never came. The next morning we tried to laugh it off. Probably just some cracked-out guy trying to scare people, we said. But none of us believed that. The way he moved, the way he stood, the lack of footprints, none of it made sense. We stayed one more night, but we didn't leave the house. We drove home early the next morning. Weeks passed, I tried to forget. Then I got a text from Hugo. "Man, I've been having dreams." He described the same man, soaking wet, head tilted, just standing in the corner of his room, silent. I told him that was messed up. But I didn't tell him I was having the exact same dream. Always the same. The man, the posture, the silence. Sometimes I wake up thinking I hear wet footsteps in my hallway. But when I check, nothing. Then last week, almost a year later, I saw a post in a local Facebook group. Someone had taken a picture from the beach at night. The caption read, "Anyone know who this creepy guy is just standing by the water around 1 a.m.? The photo was dark and blurry, but I knew immediately. It was him. The comments chilled me even more. Dozens of people said they'd seen him too. Some said he stood there for hours. One person said they watched him walk into the water and never come back. Another said they found wet footprints on their back porch, no prints leading to or from them. I don't know who or what we saw that night, but I know this. I'm never going back to that beach after dark. Story: Tree. The SOS signal we should have never followed. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of the night we followed a distress signal in the middle of the African savannah and almost didn't live to tell the tale. It was October 2022. My two friends, Mike and Sarah, and I had traveled to Kenya for the safari trip of our dreams. We joined a private expedition and decided to spend 2 nights camping near the Masai Mara Reserve. The place was breathtaking. Wild lions roaming nearby, zebras crossing the plains, the distant sound of hyenas howling at night. Our first night was peaceful. We stayed close to the campfire, listening to the wilderness breathe around us. But the second night changed everything. It was just past 11 p.m. when Mike noticed a faint light flashing in the distance beyond the acacia trees. 3 quick flashes, 3 slow flashes, 3 quick flashes. Sarah immediately recognized it. It was the universal SOS signal. We hesitated. Crossing the open savannah at night was dangerous, not just because of the terrain, but because of the predators. Still, what if someone was truly in danger? We couldn't just ignore it. We grabbed our flashlights, checked our gear, and carefully moved toward the light. The air was heavy and dry. Each step felt more unreal. The distant chirps and roars seemed to fade away. Even the insects went silent. The flashing light kept moving, always a little farther, always pulling us deeper into the darkness. We walked for nearly half an hour. Finally, we reached it. It wasn't a person. It was just a lantern, hanging from a low branch, blinking automatically. And darkness, scattered across the ground, were other lanterns. Old, rusty, some half buried in the dust. Sarah whispered, almost breathless, "It's a trap." That's when we heard it. Footsteps, soft, fast, surrounding us from every side. But in the darkness, we saw nothing. We ran. I don't remember how long we sprinted, only the pounding in my chest and the terror that clung to my skin. The sound of footsteps followed us, chasing us through the scrubland, until suddenly everything went silent. No footsteps, no wind, only the black, endless night. We realized we were lost. There were no paths, no lights, not even the moon to guide us. At times, we thought we saw distant flashes again, but none of us dared to follow them. It took until sunrise for us to find our way back to the main trail. Exhausted, scratched, dehydrated. We finally made it back to the camp. When we told the ranger what had happened, he stared at us for a long moment and said, "You're lucky. Most people who follow the lights never come back." We packed our things and left that same day. But sometimes, even now, when I find myself in the middle of nowhere, I swear I see a faint light flashing in the distance, calling me. Story 4. I grew up in Connecticut, and every summer I'd spend 3 months in a small coastal New England town. The kind of place with clapboard houses, quiet docks, and a handful of diners that closed early. At 19, like most of my friends, I had a summer job, but we still had time to screw around after hours. One warm August evening, I texted my friend Leo after work. So we grabbed some drinks and decided to take my family's boat out for a ride before everyone else finished their shifts. Nothing wild, just the two of us cruising around and having a few beers. We sailed out to a quiet bay where a lot of people anchor to hang out. A few boats were already there, which wasn't unusual for that time, around 7 p.m. We dropped anchor between two of them, turned on some music and chilled. We were vibing, listening to the music coming from the boat to our left. The one to our right looked empty. Eventually, the right-hand boat left, and the one with the music turned it off. We figured they were getting ready to head out too. We yelled stupid stuff, telling them to turn the music back on. But no one responded. We went back to drinking and joking around. That's when Leo went and said, "Dude, look." I turned to the boat on the left and saw 3 people standing at the edge, just staring at us. I laughed at first. I was a little drunk and thought they were just weirded out by our yelling. But Leo wasn't laughing. He looked uncomfortable. I glanced back. They still hadn't moved. Just silhouettes standing in the light from their deck. No gestures, no blinking, just watching. I grabbed the megaphone from the compartment and yelled, $20 if you guys dance." Leo didn't think it was funny. He looked tense as hell. Then one of the silhouettes laughed, loud enough for us to hear. But it wasn't right. It was slow, low, raspy, not amused, just wrong. Leo stood up immediately. "We need to go, now. Something's not right." "Dude, come on, they're just messing around." And then we heard 2 splashes. 2 of them had jumped in the water. Only one remained standing on the boat, still staring. Leo started pulling up the anchor as fast as he could. I was still laughing like an idiot, thinking it was some drunk prank. Then, everything went dead silent. No water sounds, No voices, no movement. I called out, "Hello?" Nothing. And then it happened. Leo screamed, "Behind you!" I turned and saw a hand gripping the back of our boat, a soaked head rising up from the water, pale skin, wide eyes, no expression, just climbing on board. I freaked the hell out, slammed the key into the ignition, the boat started, and I gunned it. Straight into a sandbar. The hull hit with a jolt. Leo nearly fell. I threw it in reverse and backed us out fast, water churning behind us. We didn't say a word, just stared at each other, breathing hard. But it wasn't over. In the distance, we saw a boat speeding toward us. It was the same one. No way. Leo started to panic. "Who are these people? Why are they coming after us?" I didn't answer. I just gripped the wheel and pushed the throttle as far as it would go. But our boat was old, slow. They were gaining. We could see their bow bouncing on the waves. Their spotlight hit our stern. I could hear their engine growling behind us. I made a hard left, cutting as close to the shoreline as I could without beaching the boat again. Miraculously, they veered off in the opposite direction. Out of view, for now. We didn't slow down until the dock was in sight. I steered us in and docked as fast as I could. We checked the hull. No damage, just adrenaline pumping through our bodies. Later that night, we told our friends what happened. Everyone had theories. Maybe they were trying to rob us. Maybe they wanted the boat. But none of us recognized them, and no one went back out on the water for the rest of the summer. I try not to think about what would have happened if they had made it on board. I do know one thing. If Leo hadn't been there, if he hadn't trusted his instincts, I might not be here telling this story.